I think we're live. We're live. We're live. We're live.
All right,
What's
let's
good,
get it cracking.
everybody?
What it do?
What's good, everybody? Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of the MOP podcast, the Mario Perandi podcast. I'm your host, obviously Mario, and today I'm joined by Heso. Heso, how you doing, man? Thanks for being
What's
here.
up, man? What's up? Appreciate you having me, bro.
It's been a while. It's been a while. So thanks for being here, man. I really, really appreciate it. And let's
No
get it.
doubt, man.
Let's get started. Obviously you're a Hawks fan. Are you
Die
from
hard, baby.
the
Die hard.
ATL?
Yeah, I'm originally from Atlanta.
Great, man. So obviously you're a fan of the Falcons, right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Damn, the Black Law. Yeah, they were.
Yeah, man, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was crazy, man. Against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Obviously,
Oh,
yesterday we had
it still haunts me to this day, man.
Matt
Like,
Ryan. Matt Ryan has been dealing with comeback now with the
yeah,
Colts.
I
It's
feel
been crazy.
legit feel bad for him, man. I feel bad for him because he don't deserve to get all the hate that he's got. He's been a great quarterback throughout his career. He's an MVP, and everybody puts the losses on him, man. But I just can't. I can't do that for him. I can't put it on him.
Yeah, he's been a solid quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So that was a great introduction. You have your own channel, right? Heso Mello.
I
Where can
do.
people find you, man?
Yes, sir. So it's Hezo Mello with no space in between. I can send you. I don't know if I can send you the link. Let me see if I can send you the link. And I'll drop it in the description. Give me 1 second.
Heso Mello, like that, right?
Yep. Let me see. Hang on. Let me see. Let me go back. Yeah, just like that, man. Yep.
Yeah, so he's a Hawks fan. He's been doing some great content. I've been catching up with your videos, man, and your content is great, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I'm new and I'm growing, man. I'm trying to get it cracking and get and reach to all fans, not just Hawks fans, but I want my channel to be all fans. You know what I'm saying? I welcome every fan of every fan base to my channel. I'm not just Hawks content. I do mostly cover the Hawks, but I do other NBA content. So every NBA fan is welcome to my channel, man. I'm new and I'm growing and I'm trying to get there, man. I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, we are in the same place, trying to grow our community, trying to grow our content. So thanks much once again for being here. So
No doubt,
today
man.
we're gonna be talking about the Hawks. Obviously,
Let's do it.
they went to the Eastern Conference Final, if I'm not mistaken, like 2.5 years ago.
2 years ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they went against the Milwaukee Bucks. They were without Giannis in that series
Yeah, we
for the
took game
most part.
one.
For the
Yep.
most part, yeah. So ever since, how would you assess the last two seasons for the Hawks?
Disaster. That's the simplest way I could put it.
Damn,
When you
I was trying to
when you,
be kind, man. I
no, look, man.
Wow.
When you got as much talent on the roster as this team has, there is no excuse to be a playing team. There's no excuse. I get all the injuries and everything. I understand all that, but look, man, that's part of the game. You gotta be able to overcome that, and you gotta have the right coach and the right front office in place to be able to withstand that. And Hawks just haven't done a good job of that, and that's why we're seeing us in the position that we're in right now is because we got a bad front office, we got a bad coaching staff, and I think that is a reflection of what we're seeing on the court. So I mean, there's no. I mean, we got beaten 5 games last year against the Heat. Trey was pretty much put in a box. That's unacceptable, man. That's unacceptable for Trey. It's unacceptable for the guys on this team to get put out like that. I mean, that was honestly one of the worst playoff performances I have ever witnessed out of a star player. One of the worst.
He averaged like 12 points, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trey.
I think he averaged like 15, but he shot like
Damn.
30. He shot like 32% from the field.
The
I mean, it was
physicality of Miami Heat was
yeah. I mean,
crazy.
the physicality, the trap defense. They completely put so much. They put so much pressure on him and forced him to make a play, and he just didn't. He didn't do it because he did not have other guys step up. Bogey didn't step up. Kevin Herter was dog shit that entire series. DeAndre Hunter, low key, was really the only guy that stepped up in that series. He was the best player in that series and averaged over 20 a game. John Collins was playing hurt. Clint Capella was playing hurt. It was just a bad series, man. It was a bad series. So going into this season, I'm thinking, okay, this is Trey's revenge tour. This man is going to come out on fire, putting everybody on notice. And he did the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
And obviously, the whole organization, after getting to the Eastern Conference Final, it may be expected to get to another level, maybe get to
right.
the
You would think
finals.
that
But
they would take that
yeah,
next step, but they took a huge step back and it has only continued. It's been a regression ever since the Eastern Conference Finals when it's been a regression.
yeah, for sure. So getting into this season, the Hawks are, if I'm not mistaken, eighth in the Eastern
We're,
Conference Final.
we're sitting at we're sitting at ninth right now. I
Nine.
actually checked
Wow.
today. We're sitting at nine right now. We're a game under 500 now. Granted, we're only about 3 games back from six, so we are right there. You know what I mean? It's we are right there. So we just got to start to string together some wins, man. We two in a row. We got two in a row. We won last night. We won Friday night, so that's a great start to turn the season around. But we still got a lot of work to do, man. A lot of work to do in a very tough Eastern Conference.
Yeah, it's been tough for the Hawks this season. Obviously, we got great teams in the Eastern Conference Finals. We got
Oh yeah,
Boston with the best record in the league. We got Milwaukee Bucks. Even
right
Giannis,
there.
without his second best
Brooklyn.
player, is delivering at an MVP and playing at an MVP level. Um, to me, obviously, the Heat has been a disappointment, but we got a few teams there. The Phillies
Hmm.
been playing nice. Toronto is also been a disappointment this season,
Yeah.
but it's been rough, man. It's been rough for the Hawks.
Hmm.
They added, if I'm not mistaken, Kyle Korver, right,
Yeah, they just
to the
promoted
front
him to
office.
assistant GM.
Yeah.
Promoted him to assistant GM. So I'm not really sure how that move fares for the team because under with Nick Wrestler overseeing everything of the basketball operations, I don't know how that's going to go for this team going forward because he doesn't really have any type of experience, and it's clear that, in my opinion, Nick Wrestler is running the Hawks into the ground, and it's been a
Wow.
disaster.
In your opinion, do you think he's the responsible for that? For the Dejounte Murray trade?
I do, because from what I have read and the information that I've seen is that Travis Schlenk, who at the time was the president of basketball operations, did not want to give up that much for Dejounte Murray in that trade. Nick Wrestler overrode it. There was other people around the organization that did want to do it, such as Landry Fields. So essentially, Nick Wrestler overrode the decision of Travis Schlenk, and obviously now we know pulled the trigger. So
Yeah, Travis Schlang, right?
yeah, yeah, Travis Schlenk. We know the news that he has stepped down, obviously, which who knows internally if he was forced to step down or because of
Wow.
how he wanted to run the team. There's no official word on that, but just from what I've seen, the Hawks front office and the ownership right now is a complete disaster, and that's I think is a big part of why we've seen a struggle for this whole season. On top of not having a consistent coach with Nate McMillan, I don't like Nate as a coach. He has not been a consistently great coach in the NBA thus far in his career. Yes, he's had a lot of wins, but if you look at the teams that he's been coaching, the Pacers, when he was one of the Pacers, they had the same type of issues that we're seeing right now with the Hawks. And until he is either fired or steps down, I don't know if I see this team going anywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course. I'm just letting you know if for any reason we lost connection, if my page refreshes, I'll be back just in a minute. So,
Got you.
uh, so yeah, man. So, I've never thought about the possibility. I was listening to Rick Bucher's podcast in the last
Mhm.
edition, the latest edition of his podcast. He was talking about the Hawks, and I never thought about that possibility that maybe he was forced to take a lesser role. In this case, an advisory role, right?
Yeah, and I think that was probably part of it. I think at the same time he did not want to continue being the head of basketball operations because he was not given the freedom to do what a normal guy in that situation should be given. And I think that was kind of a ripple effect of why we saw him step down. But I think it was a lot going on internally to where he might have been forced to.
Yeah, and in my opinion, when we have a lot of names, in this case, coming from the front office, being promoted or being in the obviously at the opposite, to me, it's like it speaks truly about the team.
Yep.
As you mentioned, Laundry Fields, Nick Wrestler, he's the son of the owner, right?
Yeah, so he's the son of Tony,
Tony,
who's the
Tony,
the
yeah.
majority owner. So he pretty much oversees everything that the GM and the assistant GM are doing. So being that even though Travis Schlenk was not technically the quote unquote GM this year, he was still over all the basketball operations. So even though Landry Fields was promoted to GM, everything that he was doing still had to go through Travis Schlenk from what I understand and from what I have read. Now, I've had some people dispute me on that, and debate me on that. But from what I have seen, Travis Schlenk was still ahead of everything in the Hawks organization in terms of when it comes to basketball moves and building the team. So unfortunately, I mean, I thought Travis Schlenk did a hell of a job with this team, and I really did. I mean, he's responsible for drafting Trey. He's responsible for drafting John Collins, Kevin Hurt of them guys. Now you can say what you want about the whole Luka thing. It's water under the bridge. It's in the past. People need to accept that we do not have Luka. We have Trey. Trey's our guy, and it's time to move forward with that. Let's stop talking about it. It's no longer an issue. My biggest issue with that is people are talking as if the Hawks got some type of bum in return. Like we didn't get a perennial All Star in return. You know what I mean? Like yes, Luka's probably going to be an all time great. But let's not act like Trey's not a perennial All Star. Like
Yeah, he's been balling lately. Last year,
yeah, and
leading the
he's
league
played
in
really
total
well as of
points,
recent. Yeah,
in
over his
total
last
assists,
15
right?
games, he's been incredible over his last 15 games. I mean, his shooting percentages are up, his 3-point percentages are up. So he's been playing really good as of recent.
Yeah, Trey Young has been balling. Continuing about the front office changes. Um, yeah. Now I remember. Now I remember. That person that we was talking about. Where is it? Slank, Travis Slank. He
Yeah,
was part of the
Travis Schlenk.
Golden State Warriors, right?
Yeah. So he was pretty much responsible for building, that whole dynasty there with drafting Steph Curry, drafting Klay Thompson, drafting Draymond Green. That was all Travis Schlenk, and that's why whenever Atlanta made the hire, I absolutely love the move because I think, in my opinion, he did a hell of a job of building this team. I mean, people forget we was just in the Eastern Conference Finals in 2015, 2016, and pretty much had to go through a full rebuild and did that in 3 seasons and was right back in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's all Travis Schlenk, man. I mean, that's a hell of a job. You're frozen now,
Yeah,
man.
I
So I'm
was.
not
My
sure.
connection is really really bad, but
Yeah, I see you're frozen now. I can see you now.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, connection's just a little choppy.
Yeah, I think the internet is definitely not working in my favor, but
Yeah, it seems like it's
um,
I see you keep freezing. You're having some technical issues, man. I think I lost. I think I lost you.
what's up? I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, I go. Yes, I think I lost you on that.
Yeah, that I'm sorry, man. That was fucked up
That's all
from
good,
my
man.
part. I couldn't listen to what you told me, but do you think that maybe Schlang was trying to implement the Golden State Warrior model into the Hawks, or
Yeah, I
bringing
do.
that model into the
And
Hawks?
yeah, I do. Whenever they originally drafted Trey and Schlenk, or Trey and Schlenk, Trey and Kevin Herter, he has came out and said that he was trying to kind of model after the Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, vision. And what a lot of people don't know is that whenever we made the draft trade for Trey, obviously when we had Luca, Travis Schlenk viewed that as we're going to be getting a potential another top pick in return, in addition to only moving two spots back with an additional top 10 pick potentially. Now, obviously, in most scenarios, most teams are probably going to do that deal. Okay, we're only moving two spots back. We're going to get a top 10 in return, a top 10 pick the following year in return. Now, obviously, we know we drafted Cam Reddish. It did not obviously work out the way that we had hoped it to. But in reality, when you look back at that trade, Atlanta didn't get finessed in the moment. Now, obviously, Luka has turned out to be a better player than Trey. That's not debatable. But in hindsight, Travis Schlenk did his job. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
Travis Schlenk did exactly what he was supposed to do, and he got another asset in return as in addition to a great player. So I mean, it's Travis Schlenk did a hell of a job with this team, man. I really do believe that.
yeah, that's a fact. Obviously, he was working with the Warriors back in the day, and
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to implement that. Um, Obviously, Kevin Herter, he was traded
Yeah,
to
it's
the
great to see him in
Kings.
Sacramento playing well, man. It's great to see him playing well out there. He really found a spot out there and has played really good basketball this season. I'm happy for him because I don't really know if he fit in Atlanta. He had his moments. Everybody remembers Game Seven, Kev, against the Sixers, but in reality, he was not great. And that's another thing is like people have to get over the fact that the Kevin Herter that we're seeing in Sacramento is not the Kevin Herter that was in Atlanta. That they're
Yeah,
two different players. He has reached another level in Sacramento that he was not reaching in Atlanta. So shout out to Kev for that, man. I like what I'm seeing from him in Sacramento.
yeah, yeah. He's been balling this season. When the news about the Dejounte Murray trade were public, what was your opinion at the first moment that you knew about that trade?
So I was ecstatic. I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, when you could pair any all stars, an all star player with another all star in the backcourt, it is a recipe for success. Now, obviously, we have not seen that translate to wins, but in the moment, when you look at okay, we gave up three first round picks. One of those first round picks was the Charlotte pick that we got in return for the Cam trade. So in reality, we only gave up two of our own first round picks with also I think maybe one pick swap, maybe two pick swaps. I can't remember, but a pick swap is not really that big of a deal, especially if you're winning games. You know what I mean? If you're a high seed team, a pick swap is not really that big of a deal. But in hindsight, looking back on it now, it's like, did Atlanta get finesse? only time will tell, man. Because with if they do not make a run, a deep playoff run this season, and maybe next season, then we're gonna look back on this trade that Atlanta did get finessed, and we missed out. We traded three draft picks for a guy who may not even stick around. He's only under contract through next season.
Yeah, and obviously the Dejounte Murray has been very controversial. Maybe during the summer with his
Mm,
antics on the court,
yeah,
but
with
that's
yeah, the
yeah.
arrogance and the cockiness and all that. It's interesting.
Yeah, obviously he was coming from the Spurs. Maybe the Spurs got a nice deal. Obviously, there maybe the same situation as Utah dealing
Right.
Rudy Gobert to the Timberwolves.
Oh,
But
that was a deal of. I think that was one of the worst trades I've ever seen a team do in trading 5 first round picks for Rudy
five,
Gobert.
that was
That is
crazy.
unbelievable.
And they have not gotten better, so they even had a worse record than the record
Yeah,
from
I
last
would say
year.
they look a lot worse than Atlanta does. So I
It's
mean,
crazy.
hey, when the difference is, man, they traded for a player that was on the wrong side of 30. Atlanta got a guy that's only 26 years old. So there's still a lot of room to grow. Now, the question I have is he going to be worth paying once it's time to pay him? Because will he demand a max contract? Will he demand, it depends on what ballpark, because in my opinion, I love DeJounte. I really do. I actually just bought his authentic jersey. But at the end of the day, do you pay another max contract to another guard, an undersized guard at that, and pair two max contract guards? I don't know
Yeah,
how that fares going forward for the franchise.
and obviously, taking into consideration what you said, that they need to make a deep playoff run this year,
Yeah,
in
right,
order to make it have an argument to get a max
right.
contract in the case of Dejounte Murray. Um, let's get into Trey Young now. What do you think about Draymond Green's comment regarding Trey?
So about the whole villain thing, uh, I like if that's the thing is if that's coming from someone else, I completely get it. But coming from
Facts.
Draymond, like, bro, what are you talking about? You're one of the most hated people in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, he when he's
you do
waving
not
the
have
towel in Memphis.
yeah, like you have no room to talk about Trey being a villain when
Yeah,
you're one of the most hated players in the NBA. That's coming from a guy like Giannis or a guy like Curry. Okay, I get it. But coming from Draymond, bro, what are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? So, I mean, at that point, I respect Draymond. I respect him as a player, but I think he gets involved too much with other players, and it's like, bro, you have no
facts.
business speaking on this. Like, Trey's gonna be Trey, and if Trey wants to embrace that villain role, let him do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let him do it.
It's
I
none of
love
your
it. I
business.
love
None
him
of
being
your
a villain.
business.
Yeah, I love him being a villain, man, because that's what Atlanta needs. Atlanta needs a guy that brings that swagger, you know what I'm saying? That brings that type of tenacity and is kind of hated, like we saw with Reggie and the Bulls, like we saw with Jordan. You know what I mean? Like those guys embraced it. I love it with Trey. I love it.
Yeah, and obviously other players would shy away from that, and I agree with you. I don't like the comments coming from Draymond Greens. He's been
It's
talking
just
a
like,
lot about a lot of different players. I have it's not a theory. It's like just a thought. I wanted to ask you this: do you think that maybe this is the first time in NBA history that a current player is criticizing other players in a platform? In this case, Draymond was
yeah,
talking
I think,
about Jaren Jackson, that he needed to
yeah,
stop fouling. What do you think about that?
yeah, I think that like we don't see too often guys criticizing players on a like a social media type platform. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's like, bro, you gotta stop. Like, why are you so worried about what other guys are doing? Like, you should only be worried about Draymond Green, and you should only be worried about the Golden State Warriors. I don't understand why he gets so involved with other teams when, frankly, like it's none of your business what other teams are doing and what other players have in their mind. Like, you don't know what is in Trey's mind. Why are you concerned with how Trey handles situations? I don't like that.
Yeah, in my opinion, he's trying to build this like a TV persona, like the
Yeah, exactly.
next Charles Barkley. He obviously wants to have a career, post career, after he's done playing basketball. But it's crazy what he's doing, man. He needs to be worried about Draymond Green and playing better
Exactly, man. Like,
and
if
doing
you want
better
to call
than a
yourself the
triple
greatest
single.
defensive player, like we, you know what I mean, that's fine because you're talking about Draymond Green. But don't come out and talk about what other guys have on their mind because it's blasphemy, man. And I saw Trey's response, and I thought Trey handled it, you know, pretty well. So
Yeah. And obviously, maybe we can assume that Draymond Green is playing some type of mind games, right?
yeah, yeah, because he
So it's
probably ain't gonna
crazy.
be with Golden State much longer. I
Yeah,
mean,
the writing is on the wall. That's what I was about
yeah,
to
I mean
say. The
they
writing
pretty
is on
much
the
painted
wall,
the
man.
picture that we're sticking with Wiggins and Jordan Poole. You out of here at the end of the season, my boy. So
The time is up for Draymond. So let's get into maybe the Trey Young before we end this podcast. And once again, I appreciate you coming here, man, and I appreciate your
no
time.
doubt, man.
Um, Trey, I this was really a thesis of mine, maybe a preposition, and with the whole Nate McMillan situation, that he was the reports coming out that he was about to resign with the team, that he
Yeah,
was considering retirement. Then he came out saying that he didn't know the reporter, that the
yeah.
sources were coming out of the organization. What do you think about the whole Nate McMillan situation in that
So
time?
yeah, I followed up on a lot of that whenever it was all going down because my first thought whenever I saw the report, I was like, yes, finally, finally. But from what I saw, everybody knows that his son is on the coaching staff, and he immediately went to
Wow, I
Twitter.
didn't know that. I didn't know this.
Yeah, Jamil, I think his name is Jamil McMillan. So he's an assistant coach on the Hawks coaching staff. He immediately went to Twitter and said, go to the source next time, directly to the source. And Nate obviously addressed it in an interview. Pretty much the report was a bunch of BS. I mean, I don't really know how that report came about, where that inside information came from, because if it didn't come directly from Nate or the front office, then why is it a topic of conversation? And it goes back to, remember the article, the Bleacher Report article that came out and said that Trey may be the next superstar that demands a trade.
Wow,
Where is
yeah,
this
yeah.
information coming from? I want to know who out there is getting this information, because if
Maybe
it's not
Clutch.
coming directly from Trey
Wow.
or directly from the front office, why is it a
Yeah,
topic?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
That's
understand that.
yeah. I forgot about that report that maybe Trey was gonna be the next superstar to demand a trade.
Bunch of baloney, man. See, that's my issue with Bleacher Report, and shout out to Bleacher Report. I really do
Too
like
much
a lot of the analysts.
sensationalism, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a literally a journalism mechanism that journalists do to create a storyline to get people to click on it. That's all it is, man. Like, there was no actual report in that article, no quotes from Trey, nothing from his camp, nothing that indicated that Trey would even think about wanting to demand a trade from Atlanta. So it's just, I hate articles like that, because now it puts a bad image on Trey that he's going to force his way out of Atlanta.
Yeah, and at
And
that time,
I don't like that.
I labeled I did one of my videos. I labeled Trey Young like a coach killer. We got a
Yeah.
lot of examples throughout the year. Deron Williams with Avery Johnson, Carmelo obviously with D'Antoni, Cousins with Westphal, Marbury,
Mhm.
Dwight Howard. Do you think that that's a bad assumption, or that's a wrongfully assumption, obviously, to make on Trey as labeling him as
I
a coach
think
killer?
I definitely think so, because I think people are jumping the gun a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Like, when you put it in perspective, Lloyd Pierce was his first coach who had no coaching experience in the NBA. So no head. Well, let me rephrase that. No head coach experience in the NBA. So you're bringing in a rookie head coach, that you bring in a star player. You drafted Trey to be the man in Atlanta, right? And you bring in a rookie head coach like a Lloyd Pierce, that's not really the type of connection that you want to have with a rookie head coach and a young up and coming star. And then you obviously you bring in Nate McMillan as an assistant coach. People forget Nate McMillan didn't even want the head coaching job. Lloyd Pierce, after he was fired, had to pretty much beg Nate McMillan to take the job, and now we are where we are. But the thing is, Nate is such an old school coach that he wants to do it the old school way. He doesn't like playing young players. Like we saw, AJ Griffin early in the season wasn't getting minutes. Jalen Johnson last year wasn't getting minutes because he doesn't like playing young players. And I think that his
It's
old
like
school
Thibodeau, right?
mentality.
In New York,
What's that?
it's like some Thibodeau, right? In New York, the old school mentality.
Yeah. There's several around the league. You know, Steve Clifford in Charlotte is another one of them guys. And when you have that old school coaching mentality, but you have young star players, I think it's not a good fit. And that's where I think we have seen the issue that Trey just needs the right coach, man. Like that's all it is. He just needs the right coach that's actually gonna number one, teach him, and number two, discipline him and hold him accountable. You know what I mean? And I don't think that's Nate McMillan.
Yeah, and we know we knew obviously all about the incident when Trey was in a shoot around. Obviously, he was dealing with a shoulder injury,
Yeah, with the shoulder.
and he had a back and forth with Nate McMillan.
And
Um,
that's another one of those things that like I feel like Nate McMillan handled poorly, and so did Trey. You know, but people got to understand Trey's still a young kid. Like he still does have some maturing to do. So Trey's gonna make those mistakes. But for a coach to tell you now, this is based off the report. For the coach to tell you you can either play and come off the bench or just don't show up to the arena. What the hell kind of coach is that? Who does that?
yeah, the
I don't
whole
like that,
coming off
man.
the bench thing was crazy.
I don't like that. It's just you're telling your franchise player to come off the bench or don't show up.
Yeah,
What
or
type
to
of
make an
message is that?
example out of Trey to show the
Yeah,
whole
like
group.
I don't like that message, man. I don't like that message. That rubs me
Yeah,
the wrong way.
it was definitely poorly executed.
Yeah,
I got the last two questions that I have for you. Obviously, we have heard all the chattering about around the league that maybe Trey Young is a difficult type of player to play with. Obviously, it involves his style of play.
lifestyle. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe in the upcoming seasons, Trey would have to make some type of adjustment to his game in order to maybe gel better with the teammates or whatever the case may be?
I do believe that actually. I have said from the beginning that Trey's play style is going to be a part of what holds Atlanta back. You know, and it's just I love Trey, I really do, but the logo three, the consistent logo threes, and the ISO ball, the hero ball at the end of season, you know, at the end of games, not trusting your teammates is not going to go well for this organization. And we've seen multiple players. We've seen John Collins come out and criticize Trey about it. I mean, we remember. I don't know if you remember the whole, situation. I think it was like 2 seasons ago now, where him and Trey got into it during a film session and he called Trey out about the hero ball and the logo threes. You see the frustration with guys at the end of games when Trey tries to do it all. And I think that to go forward, if we are going to be a winning franchise and he's going to have a recipe for success, he's going to have to adjust that. He don't have to change it entirely, but he needs to tweak it to
Yeah,
where you're not doing it as often.
yeah, that's a fact. And obviously, Trey is represented by Clutch Sports. Do you have some type of
Yeah.
concern there, or what's your opinion of that?
I don't think so. I think that people get too much involved in agencies and in clutch sports and the Rich Paul thing and all that stuff. Like we understand that LA and clutch sports is the biggest market in basketball, right?
Yeah,
Well, just because a player signs with the biggest market, people got to look at like Trey is a marketable player. So with the market that you have with Trey Young's a bigger market than Luka Doncic is. And what I mean by that is Luka's is an international market, but you don't see Luka in commercials and everything like that because he doesn't have the marketability like that, like a Trey Young. So
he was doing
Trey Young's
commercials for State Farm, right?
yeah, State Farm. He has a Sprite commercial. You don't see Luka doing that because Luka's
Yeah.
not as much of a marketable player as Trey is. And there's nothing wrong with that. So when you have a marketable player like that, you want them with the biggest agency, and that's Clutch Sports. So when he bought a $20 million house in LA, so what? People act like you can't have a
Every big
vacation
player
home
has a
that
home
that
there,
he
right?
has to stay in Atlanta for the off season. Like why? The guys out there have multiple houses in multiple cities. It's crazy, man. Again, it's one of those things where people are trying to create a storyline out of
Yeah.
nothing.
I would have to completely agree with that. People trying to make something out of nothing in most of cases. The last question, man. I don't want to take advantage of your time.
Oh, no problem, man. It's all
Um,
good.
will we see any trades coming out of Atlanta? Obviously, you mentioned John Collins. Do you think that maybe he's gonna get traded this during this trade deadline?
I think we definitely are going to see some moves. I think as of right now, if listen, man, if I were the GM and I'm in the front office, the only players I would consider to be untouchable. Now, really, no one's untouchable in the NBA unless your name's Luca, LeBron James, Giannis, or Joker.
Joker,
That's it. To me, those
facts.
are the only, and maybe Jason Tatum and John Morant. Those are the only guys that I see untouchable. So, if obviously if someone says, "Oh, we want Kevin Durant," give us DeAndre Hunter in a Kevin Durant trade, obviously the Hawks would do that. But in my opinion, that's not a realistic trade. So, with that being said, Trey Young and DeAndre Hunter to me are the only guys I would deem as untouchable come the trade deadline. Now, if someone says, "Hey, we'll give you 7 first-round picks for Trey Young," okay, now we got a conversation, but it's not realistic. You know what I mean? So I do think there's going to be moves made. I don't know who. I think John Collins obviously is the one that comes to mind, but at the same time, like he's been in trade conversation for 3 years, man. Like what? I don't know what his value is at this moment with the season that he's having. He's not having a great offensive season. His contract is not a favorable contract for his play. But I really think that, like, I love John Collins, and I don't want him to get traded. I would never campaign for him to get traded, but I feel like it's best for him to get traded because I really want to see John Collins go somewhere, kind of a similar situation to Kevin Herter. I want to see him go somewhere where he's going to be utilized.
Contribute.
You know what I mean? Like where he can actually contribute and be utilized the way he should be utilized. Get more touches in the post, not keep him on the 3-point line like Nate McMillan does. It's not his strength. I want to see him go somewhere for him. Not, you know what I mean? I don't care at the same, like, I'm to the point where I don't care what Atlanta gets back. Do right by him and move him somewhere because he deserves it. That's kind of
Yeah,
where I'm at. As much as I don't want to see him go, it's best for him.
yeah. That I have to completely agree with that. Also, they need to get him out of there. He's been hearing the chattering for the last couple of years, as you
Yeah,
mentioned.
and it's
So
and you can't expect a guy to be able to perform under those circumstances. You're asking a guy who's been in trade rumors for now 3 straight seasons to block out all of that, to basically say, we don't want you. We are dangling you at the trade deadline. We are basically giving you away, but no one wants you. That's got to be a just a killer for a guy's confidence. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So I just think that it's time for John Collins to get a fresh start, get away from this organization because like I said, we've already talked about the front office and the ownership. It's a disaster, and I think that John Collins needs to separate himself from that. They have already granted his camp to see if they can find their own trade. We'll see what happens, but I feel bad for JC, man. I really do because I love him as a player, and I think he's got so much potential. The guy's only 24 years old, man. People talk like he's been in the league for 15 years.
yeah. For some people, maybe they would have thought that he's 30 plus, but he's very,
I
very
mean,
young.
like it's
So he has a bright
24,
future.
25 years old, man. Like he hasn't even entered his prime yet. Like, and people are talking like he's a lost cause. You know what I mean? It's all about situations, man. It is all about situations, and we see that with the Kevin Herter situation. Kevin Herter's situation in Sacramento is a better fit for him. Just like John Collins, I feel like he could fit in Atlanta, but you have to have the right offensive scheme and system in place for that to work. People forget, man, JC was a 20-10 guy before Nate McMillan got to Atlanta.
Facts.
So
Last. That's crazy. So my last question, I'm sorry. Do the Hawks make the playoffs in your opinion?
Yes, but as a low seed. I would say a 7 or 8 seed. As a this is right now at least. Now, obviously, things can change, but if we're
Yeah.
talking about right now, as the team stands, our ceiling to me is a 7 seed, and that is a shame to say because when you give up that much draft capital for a guy you were expected to be a top 6 seed. We were a 9 seed last year and made it in as an A seed in the play-in. It's going to be so you trade for a guy to essentially put them into that next tier, but you're still a playing team. That's a big issue. So we still got a lot of basketball left. But right now, relatively speaking, I think a 7 seed is our ceiling. Unfortunately,
Yeah, we're halfway through the season. We will see what happens with the Hawks. In my opinion, they will also make the playoffs, but as you said, in a lower seed, maybe eighth, seventh.
yeah, lower seed.
So
Unfortunately,
we'll see what happens. Man, it's been a
yeah.
pleasure, man. Thanks for being
Hey, I
here.
appreciate you having me, man. Definitely great. Definitely great. We'll have to do this again sometime. Definitely
Sure.
appreciate you having me. Shout out to everybody out there, man. All Hawks fans, all NBA fans, man. Let's see if the Hawks can turn around. We got a game tomorrow in Atlanta on MLK Day. So hopefully we can come out with a dub.
Yeah, I forgot yeah, it was an MLK birthday, right?
We
Wow,
got
that's
we got the
amazing, man.
we got the Heat
They are
tomorrow. We
wearing
got
the
the Heat tomorrow.
special jerseys.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
I don't know. Yeah, they don't have the MLK jerseys anymore, but they'll probably have their.
that
I'm
was a
assuming they'll
great
probably have
jersey,
their.
man.
Yeah, I'm assuming they'll probably have their Peachtree jerseys on though.
Wow.
But yeah, man, got the Heat tomorrow, so we gotta see if we can get a dub. So
Yeah, all that matters is the dub. So,
that's
Hesso,
it. That's it.
man, thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
So I'm on all platforms. You can follow me on Twitter. HezoMelloYT is my Twitter handle. I'm on Instagram, A Mandela3, and then obviously my YouTube channel down there, Hezo Mello. I'm like one of the first two that pops up. So I'm definitely easy to find. Please, please, please subscribe to my channel. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm almost at 1,000 subs, and I'm
Wow.
just under it. I'm really trying to grow my channel. So I appreciate you having me on here, man. I really do. Great conversation. I love talking hoops, man. So I'm always open to it.
Yeah, man, it's been a pleasure, man. So thanks for being here. It was a great convo about the Hawks, and hopefully we can have you back here, maybe in the playoffs. So
Definitely,
that would
definitely.
be great, man. So thanks for being here. Thanks for everyone that was watching live this video and is gonna watch it later. With Heso here. So that has been all for today. MOP podcast. I'm Mario, and we are out. So until next time, see you.
Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man.
Yes,
Thanks
sir.
for being
Appreciate it,
here.
man. Yes, sir.